This is the Under the Ring Report, a weekly pro wrestling podcast. Now, here are the masters of armchair booking, John the Flesh Wound and Cousin Tom.
And welcome, wrestling fans, back again here on the Under the Ring Report as we make our way towards WrestleMania weekend. And in the far corner to the left, Cousin Tom is with us.
Coming in strong, 165.
Soaking it wet.
Division.
All right. So, we've been talking about WrestleMania moments and getting everybody hyped up for that. But I thought maybe this week we'd kind of take a look at one of the main events of WrestleMania. 2 weeks ago, Roman Reigns probably cut the promo of his life. Are you buying what Roman Reigns is selling?
If he cuts more promos like the one he did 2 weeks ago, then I can't believe I'm saying this. Yes, I'm buying what he's selling. Now, if it reverts back to the y'alls and believes that and all the other stuff, then no, I won't be. But if I can get a guy who comes out and shows passion, doesn't need to be well spoken, but just needs to get his point across without looking like he's memorized a bunch of lines and actually feel like that guy is shooting straight with me, then yeah, I'm buying what the guy's selling, because I know there's writers behind everything, but I and a lot of other wrestling fans are tired of having a part-time champion who's only around for pay-per-views. Am I alone there?
No, you're totally right, and I think the thing is, there was a lot of disappointed wrestling fans after Elimination Chamber, because I think everyone, even though we all knew what was going to happen, they were hoping maybe Braun Strowman was going to be thrown in as the third guy. I mean, we talked about that. Everybody kind of hoped that might be the case because everybody's sour on Roman Reigns. It doesn't matter what this guy does anymore. He could keep having the best promos in the world, and there's people that are going to still hate on this guy no matter what. And from everything we hear in the back, he's an awesome dude. It's just, unfortunately, it's not his fault. It's Vince's fault for the way people feel about him. And I think this is a different way to push Roman, because you're putting down Lesnar, because before they didn't want to put Lesnar down. They didn't want to do anything to upset the cart of apples. And for some reason, they've decided to switch this thing up and see if they can build Roman Reigns up by making Lesnar just look like a heinous individual that's just there to suck money off the company and gives two shits about the WWE.
They know the contract is coming up. He's already talking to Dana White about going back to UFC. So there's talks there. They know what's coming. At some point, he's going to go back and he's not going to be with him anymore.
That's all a negotiating ploy. We all know that. He did the same crap the last time he signed with him.
I know it's all part of the business, but he's the guy that's got all the leverage.
You're right about that. I don't think Lesnar is the attraction that he used to be to me. I don't know about how you feel about it. I mean, because when he first came back, I mean, you remember when he destroyed John Cena, and that's been like 4 years ago, when he took out The Undertaker and stopped the streak. He was still a big deal. And I think, truthfully, that last year, the whole thing with Goldberg took a lot of shine off of him, and then holding on to a Universal title for a year and barely defending it here and there. What did he defend it? Maybe 5 times. I think people are just kind of sick of it. It didn't do anything to help the title. I don't think it did anything to help Lesnar. And I think Roman, the reason it hit a lot of chords is because everyone feels the same way from what Roman Reigns was saying. That's how everyone feels right now about Brock Lesnar.
Well, in my mind, there's no doubt to me they're keeping that title on him so they can get CM Punk's name off the record for longest title reign. After that's done, then I imagine he'll not have the title. And that's just my honest opinion. I could be completely wrong, but I wouldn't put it past Vince to think that way. But with Lesnar, when he first came up, he was this freaky athlete that was just fast and huge and just impressive. Took chair shots to the head and didn't fall down. And And, then he goes to UFC and did pretty well there until he had some serious health issues. Then he comes back and all of a sudden, the wrestling is still there, but you're not seeing it anymore. You're just seeing a brawler who just does a bunch of suplexes.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that I expect all my, heavyweight champions to be wrestling technicians, because Lord knows Hogan was never a technician at anything. But to know that the guy is capable of it and he just doesn't do it because he doesn't have to.
Well, and And
is what bothers me.
I think that's the problem. I'm with you there, because if we take a look at his matches for the last year since he's been the champion, the AJ Styles match is probably the best match he's had.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And most of the time, he wants to go in, do 5 suplexes, hit an F5, and then go take a shower and be done. Well, like, he showed up at a house show in Chicago over the weekend. Mm-hmm. The match, they said, lasted maybe 3 minutes, and he hurried up and defeated Kane and was gone. And that's part of the problem, is when you show up, you pay good money, and if you know Lesnar's there because it's an attraction, you expect more than 3 minutes of a guy who doesn't wrestle hardly at all. And he's making good money from what everybody says. And I think that's something that really pisses off a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and that's the thing, when Reigns did that promo, that's why everybody kind of gravitated to that promo that he cut, was because that's how everyone's feeling. Mm-hmm. That they hit the button on the pulse of everybody. It's like, yeah, that's what I want. I don't want a part-time guy. I want a guy who's there all the time, who's going to be on TV. I mean, if you think about 20 years ago, I know everyone goes back to Attitude Era, but the reason it was so popular was every night you had a build to a potential, there was either going to be a belt put on the line, or there was going to be a match to determine who was going to get a shot at the belt. But the champ was always in the house. Yep. Every Raw, the champ was always in the house, always there for everyone to see. You might come out with the belt over your shoulder, cut a promo, do a skit, do whatever, and maybe not wrestle, but you were there.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it was all over Twitter that Lesnar was at the Chicago house show. If it's anybody else, it's not on Twitter because they do it every day.
Yep.
It shouldn't be that big a deal.
That's right.
The guy showed up.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest problem. And in a way, I have to give Vince McMahon credit, because I think he's finally going to put Roman Reigns in a position where the crowd probably is going to be behind him, because last year, there was no way in hell anyone was going to cheer on Roman Reigns when he defeated The Undertaker. No. That's it. I mean, that was, Undertaker's iconic. No one really wants to see him go, even though he had to. But that put him in a bad situation. It made him look like a badass, and if he wants to go around saying, it's his yard, that's cool. But to be a fan favorite, and I know Vince has been making this story for him probably for the last 3 years, when Seth Rollins came in at the very end and cashed his money in the bank and stole that title away from him. So if you think about it, Vince has set up a narrative for him. For the last 3 years, he's slowly been fighting his way back. He had to defeat Triple H at WrestleMania. He had to take on the Dead Man and beat him. He had to bring the Shield back together, and he's been fighting for this last year just to get back for another shot at Lesnar. And I think that's the narrative he's trying to show, is that here's this guy. I know you hate him, and you'd brought up a while. Was it you? I'm trying to think who it was. Someone brought up a theory of why people hate Roman Reigns. And it has a lot to do because they felt that Daniel Bryan got put in the back seat because of Vince's obsession with Roman Reigns. And I don't know.
Yeah, I can believe that theory.
Yeah, but even if that's the case, I still look at this narrative that's going on for the last 3 years, and I think Vince has done a slow build, because Vince could have easily given that belt right back to Roman if he wanted to, but I think he's not dumb. He's not tone deaf. He knows he's forcing this guy down everybody's throat, and he knows they're not crazy about him, but I think this is the first time we could see the crowd behind Roman Reigns, because I think they hate Lesnar more.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I might actually be one of those people when I watch WrestleMania, which I never in a million years. I have a son, 11-year-old son, who's in his room right now, underneath a autographed Roman Reigns picture that he picked up at one of the house shows we went to. So I got a Roman Reigns fan in the house. He was always by himself there for the longest time, but he might have a partner come April.
And that's kind of the odd way of wrestling. I mean, you think about it. Vince has done a real slow turn, and he wasn't turning Roman. He's turning the fans. That's what I find funny, because usually it's the wrestler they turn, but he's slowly trying to put people and get them behind Roman. And this could shape up to be a real career-defining moment for Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Well, that promo he cut, it didn't seem forced. It wasn't like the other promos, like when he went up against Cena a couple months ago and just got annihilated. Because
God, that was bad.
Yeah, because like when Cena does a promo, gives the guy credit. He's one of the better guys in the business at promos. It all seems natural. It doesn't seem forced. forced. It doesn't seem, it all comes off natural. Reigns has never felt natural, ever, except for this one 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago.
They may let him just go out there and talk instead of writing his crap for him.
Yeah, maybe go back to doing the bullet points. Hit this, hit this, hit this, and fill in the rest. Because you know what? I know he said a few curse words that in PGTV they try to steer away from, but the guy sounded believable, and the people got behind him because he didn't sound like he was feeding you a bunch of lines. Sound like actual conviction.
And you know what else I liked too about that promo was he made it about his family. Because a lot of times he just comes there and goes, I'm Roman Reigns, it's my yard. He doesn't get into who his family is.
Right.
And I think this was the first time in a promo that he said, hey, you may hate me, but you know what? I grew up in the back as a kid. My dad wrestled for this company. You know, my brother wrestled for this company. And I think that's the thing sometimes people forget. They know it, but they forget it because it's funny how second, third generation wrestlers, for the most part, they love. But for some reason, Roman Reigns never got that love that a Randy Orton, that a Charlotte. You could go through and list all the second, third generation wrestlers on that roster. They all get some love because of their bloodline. And for some reason, he doesn't seem to get that all the time. And I wonder if it's because they don't highlight it all the time.
Well, they really don't. Because, you know, like when you had The Rock, first thing they mentioned, you know, Dwayne Johnson, son of Rocky Johnson, you know, and his grandfather.
Chief Peter Maivia, yeah.
Yeah, that was his very first match. They mentioned who his bloodline was. You know, Natalia, they made sure to mention that when she debuted. You know, any number of them, but was him. You never hear about it. The Usos, you know who the Usos are related to. And they're related to him some way or another, but they just, you know, leave it out. I don't know why that is, but I think people were tired of get forced fed Roman Reigns, and now maybe they're starting to turn a little bit. So we'll see.
I am going to be very surprised to hear the crowd reaction at WrestleMania. And looking ahead, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar?
Well, I'm still holding out hope that there's a third person added to that match.
You're one of those.
I'm still hoping that there's a Braun Strowman thrown in there, but I don't know. It may not happen, but I sure would like to see it happen.
Okay.
But if it doesn't happen, it's just one-on-one, I would very much like to see the belt taken off Lesnar and given to a guy that's like to see the belt back on television more. Frankly, the only belt you see on TV is the one on SmackDown.
And that's true. Or the Intercontinental belt. That's about it.
Yeah, those two. I mean, you know, your tag belts are always around, but as far as a little prestige, you know, that's the only one you see.
And you know what? I'm with you. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I would like to see Roman just win the belt. And the main reason is it opens up the possibility of a whole lot of feuds. I mean, if you think about it, I would love to see Balor and him go at it. Hell, I'd even love to see Braun Strowman again. I'd like to see that just because they have such great chemistry. And give me Rollins. Let him go for the belt. That would be cool, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of possibilities that, truthfully, we don't get right now. We get taste of them that don't mean anything. But if you put the belt in there and you let Roman have to defend against all these guys, he may transition into have that upper echelon Cena thing, because it took Cena a long time to gain the respect of all wrestling fans. They still boo him, but you know what? They boo him just because it's cool. But I think everybody respects John Cena for who he is.
Well, and I wouldn't mind seeing, I'm hoping Samoa Joe makes a comeback at some point.
Yeah, I don't know when he's supposed to be coming back, but yeah, when he gets back in the mix, that'll be another good match. But I'm with you. I would like to see Roman take that belt off Lesnar so we can start fresh, hopefully see Raw change the dynamic with not having to worry, because truthfully, I'm sick of Lesnar, and I'm really sick of hearing Paul Heyman coming in too, because it's got to the point where Paul Heyman's promos sound the same every time he shows up. And I love Paul Heyman, don't get me wrong, but they sound the same. They have the same connotations every time. Just insert challenger and Brock Lesnar. You know, who cares?
Yeah.
So,
you know, he's good at what he does. I'll give him credit for that. But I'm with you. Time for a change.
All right.
By God, it's a hot tag!
All right, Tom. I'm going to give you a phrase. Could be a name, could be anything. You tell me what comes to your mind when I say it. And this is going to deal with what we've been talking about the last few weeks. All right?
All right, let's see.
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. Bad actress, big draw.
They've got to do something, man. I'm with you. She's a big draw, but wow, she can't act, and you can tell she's really green and not quite sure of herself yet.
Yeah, it's painfully obvious, but they're going to get ratings off of her, so they're going to keep riding her.
Yeah, you're right about that.
All right, my turn, huh? Hillbilly Jim.
I can't believe he was not already in the Hall of Fame.
I thought the same thing. I thought he was.
I saw that report and I was like, damn, how did he not? But you know what? I was reading some information on him. Just a nice guy that had a bad leg injury, cut his career short. And Vince kept him around. I mean, he was in charge of all the Coliseum video stuff at one time. And he did a lot of stuff behind the scenes that no one had a clue. So he deserves it. Probably should have happened a long time ago, but it's good to see him get recognition. All right, Cody Rhodes.
Oh, All In. That's what comes to mind when I hear Cody Rhodes.
Uh-huh.
There's a guy who bet on himself when WWE was, throwing him in his Stardust, went on his own, went to Japan, Ring of Honor. He's in the Bullet Club, and now they've got the big deal coming up in September, their own self-funded event in Chicago. And you know what? Since he's left WWE, I think he's a bigger star than he ever was when he was in WWE.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. You know what? Every move he's made so far is perfect for what he's doing. And if he ever decided to go back to WWE, I hope they would capitalize on what he's done. And I don't think he really needs to, though.
No, I don't think so either. All right. Well, I know. Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. A guy who was forgotten, I think. And I think, on that Monday Night Raw, he really made people remember why Triple H kind of took him under his wing and tried to push him to the sky. Injuries and being kind of lower in the pecking order, I think kind of hurt him. And it's nice to see, I think after, him spending an hour wrestling, people realize, oh, hell, that's Seth freaking Rollins. He knows how to wrestle. Why is he in a tag team with Jason Jordan? So I think that was helpful to him. And hopefully we'll see Seth Rollins being pushed where he should be. And that's as a main event player, not as a bit player.
Yeah, he should definitely be main event. He's got too much talent not to be.
Yep. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Coming up soon, we will have our WrestleMania memory show. It's going to be a big one, man. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your cats and dogs, whoever the hell. We don't care. Make sure they get their memories to us. You can post it on Facebook, Twitter, all the cool places. Or if you want, you can just DM Tom. He loves that.
Oh, yeah. The more the merrier. I'll respond.
All right. Thanks all for joining us, and we'll catch you next week here on the Under the Ring Report.
You're listening to Under the Ring Report with Bad Barry Horowitz. And if you're not listening, you're going to get stretched and beat up.
Follow the Under the Ring Report on Twitter at UTRR Podcast. You can subscribe to the Under the Ring Report on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, or visit undertheringreport.com. Thanks for listening to the Under the Ring Report.